So that's one of the things that helped me to clear the interview. Like having the past interview experience, like being in other companies interview, had made me realize what are the mistakes I'm making, what are the weak points I have, what are the preparation I need, and doing all that made my ways, and that just cleared my path to the Amazon. So yeah, that conception of tough is there, but if you are prepared, it's not that tough that people think of.
So can you just share about yourself to the audience?
Yeah. So I'm from Surat, Gujarat, and I've studied from NIT Surat itself, and I did mechanical engineering. And post that, I joined through the campus placement only. I joined Affine Analytics, which is in Bangalore. So there I worked at least for 2 years, and later I joined Amazon, and I'm working at Amazon like almost a year. It's been.
Yeah, that's great, Sanket. So I just want to know your journey, like how you just get like from mechanical engineer to that first role where you just got from the on campus, right? So how you just got that, and what's that role? What's the company like? What's your role? So just a bit about that.
So the way it happened is like the company is a consulting company working in the data science and the AI domain, and also the business analytics related domain. So they like every year comes to our player campus to hire. So the in the hiring process at the company in the colleges, they don't expect you to know a lot of coding or a lot of data science at that point, but you should be good with maths and the logical thinking and the different like business related case studies and all. So they mention all those things in their job description, and whatever the things they mentioned there, I thoroughly prepared for them at the time of like, because I wanted to get into data science at that point. So and there is very few company which like it used to come at that point of time in my college for data science hiring. So I had to like be prepared for that particular chance. So I was like whatever that was mentioned in the job description, I tried to like prepare for all of them as much as I can. And yeah, that helped. That preparation helped me to clear the interview and the late. And also like at that point of time, I was like I didn't knew anything at all about data science. Even like for me, the knowing the SQL, maybe some of the basic thing was like new. I never heard of it. And when I went and joined the company, and they provided us some material and told us these are the trainings and all, that like a lot of things were new for me. I just like, oh, this kind of thing also exists. Okay, I don't know. So that was the situation I started with. Yeah.
And yeah, like what's your motive from you just chosen mechanical engineer, right?
Yeah,
Mechanical
yeah.
engineering. So what's your motive? Like why you just thought to switch to data science? So what's like what interested you the most?
Like the honestly speaking, at that point, the way it happened was like I did some internship as a pro in a some company as a engineer or in the maintenance department as a typical mechanical engineer related internship, and I realized that this is not something I'd like to like follow throughout my life. So I was just exploring the different options and just trying to understand what are the market trends are, what are the other interesting things are happening. And I have been good with maths, and solve problem solving has been something that I really loved since the early stage. So I was just looking something which is dynamic, where I don't have to like do the monotonous work on day in day out, and just I was looking for something that is dynamic, where I get to do a different sort of things on and things are evolving and changing rapidly. So I felt like this can be that field. And also like I was not that confident at initial stage, but when I like in my final year project, I was working on some optimization algorithm, and I started learning a bit of a coding and all. So that made me realize that this is something that I really liking, and I can pursue, or at least I should try and see what happens. So at that point, that was the thought process I had.
So yeah, like how you just switched to that previous company to like where you're just working at Amazon. Like what's that transition journey from that startup to the Amazon?
Um, Honestly speaking, like after some point, the things little bit become stagnant, and my learning process was not. I was not satisfied with the things that I was learning, and the leadership has changed, and some internal transitions has happened in the company. So environment was not that it was a bit different than what it used to be. And that's why I was looking to change the company. So I interviewed for initially other consulting companies and small startups. I started with that just to get the hang of the interview and get more confident on how interview process looks like, and what are the questions I should expect based on the roles and based on the projects I did and all. So I interviewed for the 5 6 other company, and I got an offer from 2 3 out of them, and then I became more confident. Then I started applying to like MNCs. Like I tried for Microsoft, Google, Amazon, wherever I can find some contacts, I'll approach them and ask for referral. So mostly like initial journey was through some, let's say LinkedIn or Naukri.com or some any other third party sites. But later it became like mostly referral, like wherever, whatever the good company or the things that company that I like or the roles that I like, I'll just go and I'll search for those roles initially online. I'll see if it suits my need or it is relevant that I like to work there. If I find something interesting, I'll just try to approach some people in that company that are somewhat related, maybe from the company that I work with, or maybe someone from my college or city or somewhere, somehow related people. So because it becomes, if they are related, they'll there is a high probability that they'll prefer you or they'll help you out. Okay, so that's why I was trying to find anyone who is related, and yeah, wherever I can find, I'll just ask for the referral, and through the referral only I got a chance to interview at the Amazon and Flipkart and few other and good companies as well, the top companies as well.
Yeah, like you just shared your journey, like how you just
Mhm.
applied, Sanket. Definitely
Mhm.
that's very useful for even freshers, like you just mentioned, asking for a referral, or let's say like following the rules, just applying for small companies, and that using that experience to apply for the MNCs. So you just
Yeah.
explain those 2 to 3 points are very useful for the freshers as well. And yeah, that's really great, Sanket. And like, what's the interview process for Amazon? So what's you like? How can you just decode that whole interview process?
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, it's a different from other companies. Like I said, I have interviewed for a lot of other companies, but it's a 100%, like it's completely different from other company. And yeah, I'll not say it's tough, but at least for the entry level role, it's if you are prepared well, it's easy to crack. But for mid senior or the senior role, it becomes tougher. If the expectation goes higher and you have to like do prep or do so well in certain segment of interviews only to get into those roles. So for entry level position, I'll say it's not that tough, but yeah, you have to prepare. You can't just be the like without, let's say, maybe if you it's your first interview, it's very less probability that you'll clear the Amazon interview or maybe FANG interviews,
Yeah,
because the way the interview process is designed, the length of the process and all, it's becomes tough if it's just the first or second interview. So that's one of the things that helped me to clear the interview, like having the past interview experience, like being in other companies interview had made me realize what are the mistakes I'm making, what are the weak points I have, what are the preparation I need, and doing all that made my ways, and that just cleared my path to the Amazon. So yeah, that conception of tough is there, but you, if you are prepared, it's not that tough that people think of.
yeah, that's really great
Mhm.
advice, Sanket. Now let's decode that interview
Mhm.
process. So what are the different kind of rounds we just have? Already you just shared that PDF file to me, but yeah, let's decode that even for the audience. It will be useful. It will be
Yeah,
great if you can share your experience instead of studying some
definitely.
paper. It will be great if you can share your own experience from you yourself itself. So
Yeah,
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 can you
like,
just decode that?
yeah, sure. So initially there will be like a telephonic round, they name it, or a screening round. Okay, so either it will be like one or two. For some, it depends on the manager, hiring manager, or the team, if they'd like to take one screening round or two screening round. It's just optional, but it will be mostly one for data scientists, and there are like other roles relevant to data scientists in Amazon, or you'll find mostly in the FANG company, which is like applied scientists or research scientists or machine learning engineer, all those sort of roles. They are kind of like advanced role, kind of you'll be doing research work as well along with your day-to-day work. So you will be like expected to do well and like quite well in certain things, then only you'll be like eligible for those roles. Like applied scientist is like the highest role as a data scientist you can expect, let's say. Then you will be doing research work on any domain that you are like expert in. So for those sort of roles, you will have a two screening round. For data scientists, mostly one, but sometime it can be two. Okay, so one of the screening round will be mostly around like a statistics, machine learning algorithms, and little bit of maths, mostly around that. You will be asked like few questions maybe on hypothesis testing or some probability distributions and all on the statistics. Maybe on machine learning algorithm, you can expect like regression, classification, Bayesian boosting, any sort of questions around basic machine learning algorithm, or some questions maybe around neural networks if you have experience with that. Not too advanced question, but it is just a screening round, so they'll be like just know you are familiar with this basic concepts. Once you like, it is not like they'll go in depth of anything. They'll just try to understand your profile and what kind of things that you are familiar with, and are you suitable for that particular role. So it will be brief of different things. Okay, it's not in depth of anything. So also you might have some coding questions as well. If it's just one screening round, it can be like if you're applying for data science, it can be around data science related stuff only, maybe data wrangling or EDA or some model building or something around that mostly. If it's 2 round, you will have a separate coding interview. Like 1 round is like just statistics and machine learning algorithm. Separate coding interview will happen if it's 2 round. In that, some roles which require a good knowledge of coding or the good knowledge of programming, you might expect like some DSA questions or as well, but it's like for not that much expected. Like for at least entry level data scientists, you don't expect to like do too well in DSA. So if you don't even know much, it's okay. Like you are working as a data scientist, not the software developer, and the programming skill required for data scientists is not that much as the level of software developer. So yeah, it can be, there can be some question, but it's okay. If you can handle it, you can choose. It's good. Not, then don't worry. There can be the questions on the like programming. Let's say they will give you some sample data and they'll just give you the build me the model, like build me the model, like do all the pre-processing needed, build the EDAs, take those decisions, choose the algorithm, choose the like metrics, whatever evaluation metrics that you need, and just build me and write the code for that in front of me. There will be like some notebooks in front of you that you write and build those things. So yeah, those sort of things also can happen. Maybe, or some DSA questions or any other basic programming questions also can be there. But that it's for the separate 1 round interview which is there for coding. If it's not the only one screening, don't like, you'll just have 1 or 2 basic coding question. So that's the initial process. Okay, and this is the only round where you might get eliminated initially. Okay. Like there is like total 5 or 6 rounds that happened for me, but this was the only elimination round. If I clear the screening round, then I'll have a chance to appear for all 5 rounds. So after screening round, I'll appear for all 5 rounds, and then only I'll get to know the decision. Like in other company, it's like you clear 1 round, you clear second round, then only you move on based on the rounds you clear. If you fail to do the clear the second round, you're out. But not like here. Here the screening round, if you clear that, you are given enough chances to prove your candidacy that you are a good candidate. So you have 5 other chances that maybe you might do bad in one of them round, but if you do well in other 2-3 rounds, you might get a chance and you might be able to crack it. So do like that's why it's good in terms of like the way the interview process is designed. Like maybe for one interview someone can fail, maybe some really good candidate can fail, but he has the opportunity to prove himself again and again. Like at least 2-3 other rounds are there. So yeah, that's the good point about like this type of company where the interview process is designed well. So yeah, from the second round onwards, it will become a bit of in depth of all those things. Let's say maybe data handling. So the first round I had was on that. So I'll have like logical question. This is the data set. I want to do this sort of task. How will you do it? Or some other logical questions on how will you prepare this data set, or why this type of processing is needed, why do we do this sort of pre-processing or something. All those things around data that we usually perform on the when we are building the model. That was my first round. Now the other important thing that comes from the second round onwards, yeah, maybe third round if 2 screening round is there, then is the behavioral question. So from second round onwards, you will be like almost 2/3 of interview will be like technical, and 1/3 of it will be behavioral question. At least 2 questions will be there. Maybe like let's say you will be given some situation that let's say you are part of that particular situation, how you handle that situation. I can explain the behavioral questions or maybe behavioral into in later stage, but let's just say there will be like behavioral questions in all the rounds from second to end. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the two part of, like, these rounds are divided in two parts. So I'll mostly discuss the technical part initially, and I'll discuss the behavioral later on. So yeah, let's come to the second round. The second round for me was like a data science depth. So it's like they'll pick any topic and they'll go in depth, like as deep as you can go. Okay, like for me, they choose the regression, like based on the past experience I had some forecasting project in my resume. So they just started asking me regression related question, and as deep as they can take. Like they'll just start from the simple questions, and you answer another question from another question, and it just goes on. Like it was just 30-40 minutes just regression question for me. Okay, so that was the interview. It's like in depth of any topic that you are familiar with. It can be anything, or maybe sometimes they choose to, like, maybe you just mentioned, I am familiar with random forest, but you don't have any project. Still, you might have to answer the question. So it's your luck, and maybe interviewers point of view. Okay, whatever is needed or whatever is he like to ask, but it will be like mostly on one or two topic in depth. Okay, the few topics, but too detailed question. So knowing few topics in depth is going to help. Like maybe you might not be knowing all the topics that is related to machine learning, or all the algorithms that is related to machine learning in depth, but at least you should be familiar with few of them, like, very well. So that will help. The next stage is kind of like data science width. So here it's like how many algorithms you are familiar with. It's not about like they'll go in depth, they'll just ask one or two questions about 10 different algorithms. That's all. Like they'll just ask you, are you familiar with time series forecasting? If you say yes, they'll ask the question. Is that you are familiar with clustering? If you say yes, you will have the question. So like it's not like if you are not familiar, you will get the question. If you are familiar, then only you will get the question. Okay. So it's like they'll ask you that, okay, are you familiar or not? And it's just like couple of questions on hell lot of algorithms that you are familiar with. So that's just kind of second round of data science, like third round of after
Yeah.
screening round. And the fourth round is called case study round, where it's kind of like a logical reasoning round, or it's kind of like maybe just, let's say, they just feel this is needed to be tested, or this is needed, they'll just go for that. Or if nothing is there, they'll just give you some case studies. This is the case, how will you solve it, or show me your logical thinking process, or reasoning why you will take certain decisions and all. But for me, it happened mostly around like computer vision. I had some computer vision projects in my resume and neural networks. So for me, it just happened they just taken one case study. Let's say you are building this particular model, image classification model. That's the case study. Now they'll just ask you, why will you choose this particular algorithm, or why will you choose this particular optimizer, or all sort of different decisions that we need to make while we are building a model. They'll ask you your reasoning. They'll try to understand your how well you are with the basics. Maybe sometimes they can ask the mathematical questions as well, but not a lot. Like mathematics, I haven't had like at least one or two questions on mathematical things of algorithms. Not much. Like it's kind of like, if you are not familiar with that much of mathematics, it's okay, it's not needed much. But you should be like aware of basic things that is happening under the hood of the algorithm. So yeah, that's kind of like, I had like, it's kind of case study, but in a different, like, it's not kind of business case study that people usually think of. Yeah, I'll have a case study of some business problem. No, it's just kind of like case study of any model building or any problem solving through machine learning. They'll just pick any problem, and they'll just ask you how will you solve this problem. And there will be questions around the choices you make, why you choose this model, or why you go for this or not this and all. So this is kind of round it will be. Okay. And yeah, if you clear all this, then you will have this round. This is called bar raiser round, but most probably most of the people go through bar raiser rounds as well. It's like non-technical rounds. So some senior pro people from the Amazon will be there, who has like a lot of experience with the Amazon, who is too senior in the Amazon. They'll be there. And the only so Amazon has certain bar, like we just want, like, if they should be like good fit for their culture. At least like the way they put it is like, any candidate should be like average of, like there should be above average of normal people, that their culture wise or the attitude wise, or something like greater than, more like better than the 50% at the Amazon. let's say they are hiring you, then you should be like at least better than in terms of like your attitude, in terms of like your maybe culturally how good you are, how active you are learning, or how well you are able to work in team bonding or leadership kind of skills and all. So it's kind of like up to, it's on you. It's not something that can be like taught, or it's there, you have it or you don't have it. So yeah. So mostly it's a behavioral question. Like they'll ask you, like, let's say for example, let's say you some of your teamwork is not supporting you, let's say, how will you handle it? Some those sort of behavioral question. Lots of the time I've seen people like ignoring that. Okay, just if they clear the technical part, it's good. But that's not the story with the Amazon. They pays at least a 50% importance to the behavioral question. Like you, even though you are so good at technical, but you fails to clear the behavioral interview, you are out. And maybe you are just moderately well at the technical things, but you did well in a behavioral question, you are in. So that's the importance they pay. Okay, like for them, this behavioral things, or that those leadership principles that Amazon have, and like having those quality in the people that they want is plays most important compared to like having so good at technical maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's how they think. If you are like a, you are of that person who can be like willing to learn or taking the responsibility, or the like curious person and all, then they'll think if we can teach him a technical part, we cannot teach him the behavioral part. And that's why they pays that more like somewhat equal importance to behavioral question, because that's the thought process they have. You can teach someone technical things, but you can't teach like this behavioral aspect. So you should be good at that aspects of the culture. Yeah. So, and yeah, what will be the kind of question? It's kind of like some examples that I given. Let's maybe they'll ask you, like, let's say you are in some time crunch situation, and either you have to like let's say compromise the quality of the result, or you have to put some extra efforts, or maybe you need some resource, or maybe you won't be able to deliver anyhow. How will you like put it in front of your manager, or how will you handle this particular situation? Or will you just don't tell anyone and compromise the quality of the result and just deliver it? That's also a solution. Okay, but that's the question, how will you handle it? So either you can just maybe try to understand how will you handle it, or for me, what I used to do is I used to try to understand something that have happened in my career or in the past company. I'll try to relate it, and I'll try to think that as an example. So I'll just tell, okay, this is what happened, I handle it this way. So that's how I have handled these questions. Okay.
So that's really great, Sanket. Like you just explained everything about like your interview process. And apart from that, you also shared how you just tackle that process. So it definitely helpful. Like if anyone want to apply to the same role, or let's say some other company, or let's say some other like different rounds, it will definitely help them. Like it's really great that you just shared your journey and how you just approached that. So that's really great, Sanket.